Jerry, I was reading something about, I think it was like runoff charges that there's something on the news. Do you know anything about that? That they're assessing communities about like, commercial parcels? Have you heard anything about that?
I have not directly, although Bob, you might have. There was some discussion we had where, if I'm understanding it correctly, there are some states and some cities that charge a water runoff.
Yeah.
The water runs off the parking lot into the sewer, and they don't have a like a holding basin. Cities have been charging for the water runoff going into the sewers, and it's been successful in other districts. My suspicion is they're going to attempt to try and do it here.
So they're charging the commercial property owners, is what you're saying?
Correct. Commercial. It's been happening for commercial when I worked for Masco, and we've done quite often in different states. And so it's not, it makes sense to do it. But I don't know much more detail than that, Council.
I looked at it briefly. I just wanted to see if you knew anything about that, but just seemed to be kind of stirring up some controversy recently. So, but I briefly looked at it. Thank you.
Item 15, this is to approve removing easements and deed restrictions from the October 9th, 2007 quitclaim deed for property purchased by Mr. Ruff. Is this something you're okay with?
I am, Madam Chair. This was an item where Mr. Ruff owns property on Beach Daily. In 2007, he bought 30 feet from City of Taylor. The City of Taylor put pretty restrictive deed restrictions on the property, and the primary one is right of first refusal to buy the property back, and also they could not build on it, could not do anything except use it for cutting the grass. Mr. Ruff now would like to sell his house, and Keck Realty, who was doing the title work, or discovered that the City of Taylor has this restriction on this property. I've reviewed it. It makes sense to remove the deed restrictions for Mr. Ruff's property.
Do we know what type of reasoning there would be deed restrictions on the parcel once the city sold it to the resident?
And the one that makes the most sense is the city owns a park just to the east of this property. And I believe they wanted to at least retain some type of egress to that.
I remember this one, I'm sorry, I can interrupt, but that's exactly what it was. When they put that deed restriction on there, that's exactly what it was. They wanted to be able to get to that.
You mean a walking?
Well, that or a roadway, if they wanted to buy back, and it's 60 foot wide.
Can't the deed restriction pass with the city?
And deed restrictions are permanent, so they do pass with sale. So if we do not remove.
Well, doesn't the same conditions still exist that we want an egress?
Madam Chair, there's an alternate path there. Councilman Johnson's correct that I think, what did you say it was, Jerry, 2007?
Yeah,
that was, yeah, there's a couple things. That was the primary concern, and then the other concern was that the argument that was made at the time was he was maintaining the property. He just wanted to farm it and grow some, a garden, and so the thought was offer it to both neighbors. The opposite neighbor at that point in time was not interested, so council at that time said, well, let's put some restrictions on it so in the event that this property is sold, that neighbor would have a second bite at the apple, or the city could make sure that we still maintained another avenue to get to that property in the back, which, Jerry, you confirmed we still have access to that parcel without this, correct?
Correct. And if we could, Mayor Sellers, through the chair, the parcel originally was 60 feet wide, and in 2007 it was split into two 30-foot wide parcels. So Mr. Ruff retains the southern half of the 30 feet. The northern half still has a 20-foot wide ingress-egress easement connecting it to the park. And that property is still, it's owned by a third party, but the city still has that deed in place, and we're not requesting the city to remove those deed restrictions at this time. only Mr. Ruff's to the south.
So it'd just be the southern part of the city.
That is correct.
So besides that 20-foot easement, is there another way into that property?
Councilman, there is. There's a road to the east.
Now, to Wilkie?
Wilkie? Correct, there's access to the park now.
Are we going to combine these parcels and make it one parcel then if we do this, or do these still have two IDs?
We will combine the parcels into one larger lot for Mr. Ruff.
Yeah, it says final comments from Laura Bell. That the city has asked us, what is a pocket park? What park is this?
This is what I refer to as the
South
pocket
Park.
park. It's on south of E-Course, behind the old the old Edison Garage building. But it's a wooded area that is used as a green space, and it appears to be as a park. And so I refer to it as a pocket park owned by the city of Taylor.
Okay. Yeah, it says, Wilkie Road, which is east of Pocket Park.
Can we move on to 16? This is a motion to establish a 2016 winter special assessment law for the collection of false alarm accounts on receivable. I remember we passed this, that we could charge for it, and this is what we're going to collect for.
This is what we're gonna bill.
Well, thank you for slapping me in the face with reality.
If it's an 80%,
A tap.
80% collection rate.
Okay, number 17, this is a motion to remove grass cutting charges for the months of August and September.
Can I,
Yeah,
I missed the number 16.
it's because you were talking to Charlie.
Well, I was trying to understand 15, so I'm still going in the room. This represents not everything that we bill, but everything that we bill that we can't collect. Is that correct?
And I'll ask Jason to defer that question.
Yeah, this
to
is,
me on that.
like I said, the false alarm program was a program that started during the fiscal year. I think it started in February, March, or went retroactive back to January in the calendar year I'm at. So we didn't have enough data to do anything in the summer tax roll, but what this represents as of, I believe, October 31st, anybody who hasn't paid within 60 or 90 days, we're taking it off the AR and transfer it to the taxes because we were told that it was established that we could put a lien on these properties. So that's exactly what this is doing, is putting those cutoff date, October 31st. Anyone who hasn't paid within 60 or 90 days, we're transferring those balances to the taxes.
Dude, what's up?
False alarms.
And there is a name on there, but it's not the same.
My other place,
Was Brian know about that place?
I respond with an I.
Over on Court Village.
Yeah.
I can't wait till Facebook tonight.
So when did we start assessing these? I don't remember.
I believe we started in, Mayor, help me out, but I think we started this like in May or April, but we went back, we had records, or maybe the gentleman from the police department, we had records starting from January, so we started like in April or May, but we went back to January.
We're retroactive.
Retroactive,
And
so,
there's nobody being paid to collect this.
no, we have a third party,
They reported to us that this, so what I'm saying is we collected a lot of the money that we've assessed since January. This represents the people that aren't paying.
That's correct.
Do we know what that number is, what the higher number is, the gross number of billings?
I
So
believe,
Do you know that, Commander Humphrey?
I believe we collected 19,000, but not 100%, somewhere around there though.
We collected 19,000 roughly.
That's what my
that sounds about right, but we can get those numbers, if you want to know,
So
since
it's around
January.
50 grand, that's
Yeah.
where I was getting.
So you want to know what we have billed, what we have collected, what we're transferring.
Yeah, I mean, that round number is good for me, I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, generally small, but a dollar to dollar. I mean, we anticipate this program wouldn't be that much of a money
This
maker.
wasn't a money grab, it was an attempt to make these property and business owners accountable for managing the alarm system, so these guys weren't going out wasting resources on them not tending to their system. So I'm not curious from a revenue perspective. I mean, I was curious what the answer was, but hopefully this report is zero because people are fixing their alarm systems. And they're responsible and accountable for the systems that they're reporting to our PD.
Now, these false alarms, they're for both police and fire, is that correct?
That's correct.
They go to the same place, the alarm.
Correct, it's just, if there's a dispute, Madam Chair, if there's a dispute, then it would go to the fire department for theirs, and for the police, we would handle it with ours. Because they have the opportunity to contact us if they don't feel that the charges were just.
And Madam Chair, and that's a good point. These are only those that have been determined to be false alarms. I mean, they go on still a ton of runs, but some of them, you know, they're legitimate, others are, you know, there's a reason, and they don't qualify as necessarily a false alarm. So, you know, you can see even with the 19 or 20 plus the 30, I mean, there's a lot of volume that they still are going on. I mean, the runs are still up there.
Where do these funds go back to?
It's general fund, it's a general fund revenue source, yes.
So a lot of banks on here.
I don't know if you guys remember me saying the one across the street, I mean, every Monday morning, the call would come in at 8 a.m., every Monday morning, the bank.
Wow.
The ATMs, they have their own separate alarms, most of them anyhow.
There's a bank across the street?
Wasn't it that we discussed that they were very sensitive or something?
I think most of it comes down to employee training. They don't have codes, or they're not, you know, they have a code, but they're not authorized, so when the alarm company calls, there's like a breakdown in communication. The person they're talking to on the phone and the person that's standing at the building, there's no communication between those two, which means we're dispatched to the run.
Madam Chair, I also think that once there was a financial cost with this, people started paying more attention because we have noticed a decline. And when we do talk to the people that did dispute it, you don't get billed your first time. I believe it's the third time.
Right.
So once we talk to them, they have the understanding that there is a consequence, and they do training with their people, which helps us.
Have you seen any decrease yet?
I believe we have. I don't do the report myself, but I know that our runs have gone down, and I've seen and been a part of some of the conversations when we talk to the employers, and they just want to know how to make it go away so that we're not bothering us, and if they did have a question, and we can answer it for them, and it usually resolves it pretty quickly.
And there have been a couple of them that the chief and the company that coordinates this, what's it called again? False alarms, or?
Yeah, I think it's called
False alarms. They have negotiated some reduced payments for a couple of people that had big numbers, just to try to get them current and get their attention. So I know that in addition to this, there's been a little bit of latitude as well.
I got a question here. We got it says Ponds, the Ponds Clubhouse, and then Court Village. Is that the McKinley properties?
Yes.
So basically, we're getting our money back? Is that?
Well, the McKinley, through TCDs, McKinley will be paying